this coddling culture is causing chaos. You say that 5 times fast. Coddling culture causing chaos.
Graduation night, I was ready to be an adult, but now it's like these kids are like, where do we go?
Yeah,
like you're 17, you're 18 or 18. Figure it out. It's like, what do we do? And I'm like, you have to put yourself in experiential situations. Have the flushed face. Feel nervous in the car, like you want to throw up. Did you? But did you die? But did you die? But did you die? That's right.
All right, welcome to episode 3 of Therapist Unhinged.
Yes, here we are.
So today we are talking about coddling and what that does to our kids and young adults and all of that. Because, I mean, if you think about it, ladies, I know everyone can relate that a lot of kids, teenagers, and young adults, man, they are tech savvy. They can do videos, social media. They can do all this stuff that we don't know how to do sometimes. However, they can't call and make a doctor's appointment. You know, they don't know how to change a tire. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to do a lot of things. So where's the balance? Where is this culture, coddling culture, coming from?
Well, who do you want to go first? Because I'm going to hit you with so for one, you know what we got to start with. Let's go Gators! Because y'all know on the last podcast, I said by the time y'all see that one, we're going to be national champs. And y'all, sorry, had to rep. Same thing. And you know what? Because it's funny because I was glad we were doing this today because, you know, I'm going to relate it back. And I think even I was thinking about what was it about our team that just was so different than any of the other teams. And that was it. They didn't get coddled at all. I mean, they didn't get good press. They didn't get anything. Didn't have a number one this, that. It was just a bunch of little dogs coming in. But they knew what they had to do. And that's the thing. If they didn't have it, they figured it out. And I think that's the problem. But also, I think a lot of it goes back to, and I tell my students, I say, the problem is a lot of times, like when COVID happened, you know, because there's a lot of that psychosocial development that happens in public schools and public thing and actually experiencing things. And so if you were any type of a child or a person that's very introverted and didn't quite understand the world, but you still had to show up and you had to navigate the world your way. And so, and again, not their fault. And I tell them all the time, I said, not your fault. I said, but then there was all these choices and all these things. And of course, as a parent who didn't know what to do, and if their child was already struggling, and they go, oh, we have the option to just keep them home. And then what?
And then what happened?
Right. You know, and now they're 18 and they're whatever, and they're trying to even go to college or they're trying to get a job, which is why even in my class, my Gen Psych class, I do interviews. We talk about all that stuff because I'm like, you have to, and I ask them, so how many of y'all are comfortable talking just one-on-one? How many? They don't know how to date. Right. They don't know how to make friends. They don't, and it's just not just one or two. This is a lot of that.
That's what I'm saying. Right. It's like it's a generation thing.
It is. I'm finding too, you know, that some of these kids, they don't know how to fill out job applications. You know what I mean? And like you said, they're so tech savvy and they know this and they know that, but like real life stuff, they don't.
I know. And then it affects them. Like what I'm seeing too is I love the young adults, just like you do. Like I really vibe with them. I love like my 18 to 25 year olds. Mm-hmm. But what I'm seeing, like a huge issue is that they were, you know, they had, let's say, great parents, you know, intact families, however you want to picture, you know, picture perfect families. You know, and parents that have been really supportive, but how supportive were they? Like sometimes what we do is we think that we're trying to protect them. We're trying to teach them something. Mm-hmm. However, what we're really doing is preventing them to learn from mistakes, learn how to problem solve, things like that. And then what happens is that a lot of times when we get to it, like they fear because they lack the confidence because they were so codependent on their parents doing everything for them, just taking over. And I want to question parents out there because I've been there too. And I've had to like check myself. Yeah, I know.
All of us.
Check ourselves and say, and say to us, like, where are we going with this? Are we trying to protect our children or is this coming from a place of fear? Because I really think that it's fear-based why parents sometimes are like overdo it and like the helicopter or the lawn mowing parents, which is another term, which they're paving the way everywhere they go for their kids. So they're using the lawnmower. And it's like, yeah, because you're trying to just do everything for them. So it's perfect. But then where do they go? Where do they go when they're 18 and 19 and they're trying to do things? I'm like, Mom, make my doctor's appointment. Who do I call? How do I go to the pharmacy? What is that?
I think sometimes too, because I can attest to being like that helicopter mom, I guess, from, what my kids have told me in times past. But I think, if there's a parent out there that's still doing that, it's because we have the mindset that we don't want our kids to go through what we've gone through.
Just fear.
Right. It is fear. It's definitely fear, especially if, the parents have had a hard upbringing where they've had to figure out things on their own that they shouldn't have had to figure out at that time. So they try to save our kids from that. But in essence, we are doing them a disfavor by doing that. So I think it definitely is fear-based.
Yeah, and it comes from a good place. Like those parents who are doing that, it's not because they're a bad parent or they're terrible. It's just they're thinking they're doing good, but it's really doing harm in the long run. So
one of the things, because again, I'm very psychoeducation, come from education. I taught this in high school was life, and what I'm seeing with a lot of my parents is just, again, it's the lack of knowing what to do. And I'm going to give you, for instance, some of our kids, again, have been in crisis. And we say mental health until my kids, y'all are lucky. This is the first generation that's ever had mental health in a conversation. Mm-hmm. But when you've had a kid that's been Baker active, when you've had a kid that cuts, our parents didn't go through that. They don't, what is that? How do you know? Especially if you have any type of older generation parent, it's like, what do you even mean? And what, just get it together. And they literally, for whatever reason, and there's a lot of times that with my parents, I am literally the one that says, hey, your child's not in crisis anymore. You got to stop treating them like they are, because that's what I hear. But what if? And I said, but you got me on board now. I will let you know what if. And that's what I'm saying is that you can even see, because, we're all parents, and, as a single parent, there's always that kind of, oh my gosh, is he, will I, am I, and I said, but that's when you say, listen, I've built a foundation. I'm giving you everything I've got. You have to instill and believe in your children, because I know they're part me. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. And if they're upset, good. They have to be, because that's when you figure it out.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That discomfort is what's helping them grow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because that's the only time you grow.
Yep. Is during this.
Is when you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, but
so again, how do we change it? And that's the thing, is how do we change this type of mentality, I guess, that we've created? And I think it does it's generational, because like you said, our generation of parents were like, bye, see ya, figure it out. I don't know.
You're 18.
Exactly. And that's how
we were 8.
I mean, I moved out on my own at 17. I mean, and so I know a lot of us were like that in our so then we kind of overcompensate.
I'm just thinking too, as you're saying, I remember graduation night, I was, I had my own place. I was ready. I was ready to be an adult. But now it's like, these kids are like, where do we go?
Yeah.
Like you're 17, you're 18 or 18. Figure it out. It's like, what do we do? And that's a good question. How do we stop it?
One thing that I
speak to it.
One thing that I do with parents who, let's say, have these older 16 and up teenagers, and they're kind of going through it of, let's say their teen is either trying to spread their wings and fly, and their parents is pulling them back in. So that's when you have to, I always tell my parents, okay, check yourself. Why are you doing this? What is your purpose? Mm-hmm. So checking yourself was what is your purpose right now for them? What do you want for your child? So really take a look. Is it fear-based? A lot of it comes from fear. So I fear that my child won't be able to do X, Y, and Z. Or I fear that my child will make a big mistake and ruin their life. So all of that is fear-based. Mm-hmm. So we have to check ourselves as are you giving them the confidence? Are you saying, you know what, you got this, and if you make a mistake, it's okay. You're going to bounce back. You're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. And allowing them to make those mistakes. But a lot of parents think that I'm going to prevent them from making mistakes, which is better for them, but it's not. It's not.
Well, then I always go, and guess what? It's not about you.
It's not about you.
I'm afraid little Johnny's not going to, hang out with so-and-so, and so-and-so's son is doing this, and so-and-so's daughter doing that. It's the worst thing you can ever do to your child is compare that child to somebody else.
That's true.
Do not, even if it's a sibling, do not do it. And I'm going to tell you right now, we know I'm so different. Mm-hmm. from my siblings and everybody else.
I'm going to say all of us.
And that's the thing. That is what I grew up with. And we know that is my story because, and that's what I work well. Like I said, give me an underdog, give me our little neurospices, because we are able to explain that. But especially if you have a child that is neurodivergent, and our capacity and our problem solving, our lack of fear, and parents are going, whoa, wait, how come? Whoa, slow down. What? Parameters, keep safe. Mm-hmm. But the worst thing you can do is put that child in the box.
And that's true. And I think too, that try to speak to it, like, how do you stop it? I think it's going to start with, again, reassuring our kids, that they have the confidence, instilling that, sometimes she's got to start over, and have the conversation and, let them know that we believe in them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, my kids, the younger one, he's ready to go and spread his wings. And it's like, I'm like, no, come back. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, what I have to say to myself is, I've already put in him what he needs for success. Now he has to go out and manifest that success for himself. And I have to be okay with that.
And you have to believe that you did the best damn job that you could have done. And you taught him. And then guess what? If he makes those mistakes and he makes bad choices in his life, and this is hard because I get it, like saying, oh my God, if they screw up, that's a reflection of me. I must have done something wrong. Then we blame ourselves. It's like we must have done something wrong. But if you can really say to yourself, like, I put my heart into these kids, and I'm doing the best that I can. I made some mistakes along the way, but at the end of the day, they know that I did my best and that I tried to make them just a good human being.
And we have to be okay with
We have to be okay with it.
That's it.
Well, and again, flip side of that, because, we're talking about how do we change it. One, again, you have to educate, because you cannot change what you don't understand. And when I tell my students, I said, here's the thing. When if we were going to get a job, we had to literally go to the job. Mm-hmm. We had to fill out an application. We had to go talk to people. We're selling Girl Scout cookies. We went and door to door. So we were comfortable with people. Everything is third person now. Everything is behind everything. And so it's like, and even, we work with people. And I told them just yesterday, we're doing psychosocial development. And I said, here's the thing. Anybody that works in any type of, career that is human based, nurses, doctors, firefighters, whatever, healthcare, education, you got to understand people.
Yeah, you do.
And even with that, we're seeing in some of our careers where some of our professionals are not really getting that either.
Have people skills.
Yep, absolutely.
You do.
Absolutely. So, and I think too, another thing that I know I'm seeing a pattern is the ones that are trying to step out into the world and they don't know what direction to go, and saying to them, that's okay. Instead of a parent saying, well, do this, try this. You need to go this way. You need to do this. And they're just like, I don't even know what to do, because in the back of their head, their whole life, you've done everything for them. Right. So how do you expect them to be 17, 18 and say, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I know what career I'm going to want. Mm-hmm. I know I'm going to do this. Like, no, because you have been doing that for them their whole life, instead of fostering. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to foster their curiosity.
Yes.
Foster them and saying, oh, you like that. You know what? Have you thought about like looking into that a little bit more and seeing what path is really they're good at? And, praising them when you see them do things that are like completely out of character. Like, okay, no parent wants their kid to be like an artist, right? Because that doesn't make money and they're so hyper focused on that. You're like a really good artist. Like, well, and then the kid goes, well, that's not going to make me money. You always said that. Well, what else can you do with art? Why don't you brainstorm? I'll help you brainstorm. There's so many things you could teach. You could do other things that are like have to do with art. And so that's another thing that I'm seeing as a lot of these very successful parents, doctors, attorneys that have gone to school, they grinded it out, and they're wanting their kids to do the same and follow in their footsteps. Mm-hmm. So I get that too. And it's one of those things where not every kid is made for school. Not every kid wants to do that. They have other desires, and you gotta let them go that way.
You gotta let them find themselves.
Yeah.
And also there's, something I've always said, like there's rescuing and then there's helping. Mm. And that's the thing. It's like, and again, I tell my parents, I said, here's the thing. We all have to be rescued at some point in time. At some point in time, we are drowning in the ocean. We need to be rescued. Great. You're doing 90% of the work. You're getting them in. But if they keep going in the ocean,
Going
and
back
you
in the
know
ocean,
that they know
yeah.
how to swim,
Yeah.
but you're feeling uncomfortable. So you keep rescuing. You can't be mad because they keep throwing themselves in the ocean. I said, because here's the thing, help is 50%. I literally used to tell my students all the time, here's your toilet paper. Wipe your own behind.
Yep.
I literally
I'm
can't.
giving you the tools.
Right.
Now it's time to go
Absolutely.
out and do what you need to do.
And it's, like, again, if you smell, you whatever. And well, nobody wants, well, have you wiped your eyes? Say it. And they all laugh at me. I'm like, I don't know how else to make it as funny as that. And again, what do we always say? You can't do more work than them.
Right.
And when they're upset,
So,
good.
Right.
But that's when you say,
and then I see sometimes where parents, they think that their kids should already have it all figured out. And sometimes they don't. They learn it along the way.
Right.
They don't always have to have it all figured out. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think, and like I said, I see that a lot usually from, highly, really educated individuals, doctors and stuff. And they're like, well, my kid's either going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Those are 2 options. And it's like, well, hold on, mom. And for me too, I have two very different children. My son is all me. He loves school, loves learning. He eats it up. He wants to do some great things in this world. Great. I support him in that. I love that about him. My daughter, all about sports, fun. And we all know my daughter. And she is fun. She wants to travel the world and she doesn't know what she wants to do yet. So guess what? She's not going off into the world yet. Just because she doesn't know, and that's okay. I'm giving her some time.
and here's the thing, she's not ready.
No,
Yeah.
she's not socially and emotionally
You
ready.
got to know that too. You got to know when your child is ready for that type of environment or to be,
Yep.
thrust into the world.
Now my job now I'm going back because obviously my son is older. So he was ready to go. He was like, Mom, let's go, colleges, blah, 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 senior year, he knew he was off. Her now graduating, I'm having the upset. So now I'm thinking, what do I need to do? And this is where I check myself. Okay, what do I need to do to make sure if I'm giving her another year, what do I need to do to make sure she has confidence that she can go out in the world and do this? So now I'm like, Anaya, you're almost out of your medication. You better call the pharmacy. And I'm telling her, you feel you have an ear infection? Urgent care is down the street. And I'm telling her this stuff and I'm making her do it and it's pushing her. Yes. It's
And she's going to end up on our couch. Nah, girl, we got you.
Yeah.
We love you.
She's uncomfortable with it. And I'm like, too bad. And her coaches, hey, talk to your coach.
That's good though.
But it's hard for me because yes, I want to help her. I want to help my child, but I know that's not going to be good for her. I'm trying to teach her to, you got this. You're good. People love you. You just speak up. And so pushing that on her of just those little things in this next year, that's where I got to do my part because then she needs to be ready.
Right. But that's causing her to grow.
Yeah, exactly. And when she's uncomfortable, that's good. You're uncomfortable with that.
Absolutely.
Well, and even with some of our young people, they literally have told me, they're like, Dr. Robin, I don't have anybody to talk to about this. And that's the thing. I was talking with somebody the other day and they were talking about success. And I go, hold on. I go, define success. Because I want to know what their success is. I said, because, and that's the one thing that I always do with my young people is, I want them to start saying things because, a lot of times when we're in it, we don't even know what's going on in our head. And so I'm doing all this stuff. And, and then I was like, okay, so we're going to go back over here. Did you even realize what you just said? And they're going, wait, what about what? Did I, what? Huh? And I was like, oh yeah, well, clearly 5 of your last statements were over here. So maybe we ought to start looking over here. And that's what I'm saying. It's there has been a lot of disservice and there has been a lot of things. And especially, like I said, our young teenagers that when COVID hit, and I tell them all the time, I said, it was really tough. I said, teachers didn't know what to do. Parents didn't know what to do. Nobody really knew what to do, but we had to educate you guys. I said, you had to get an education. And I said, it was just so all over the place. But I tell my young babies, I said, but here's the thing. I said, y'all right now, because you've had to state your kids out, you've had to go, wait a minute. Okay, well, hold on. Well, I don't know. Ask your mom. Mom doesn't know. Dad doesn't know. Teacher doesn't know. Whatever. So you have to figure it out. It's the figure it out muscle.
Yeah.
Strong.
And I like that you brought up the definition of success because I've said that to all of the kids, even my stepchildren. your definition of success will be different from your siblings' definition. So like my son's definition of success is, being this amazing, psychologist and following his mom's footsteps. That's his definition. My daughter's definition of success is she's like, I just want to be a mom and a wife one day and we live on a farm. Okay, then that's success for you. Like that's great. And that's one thing too. It's like that's her definition of success, like a good family and raising kids. Okay, that's great. The big thing in her is like, I really like, this is probably a me thing. I really want to foster independence, but where did that come from? That's where I had to check myself. I want to foster independence because I know what it's like to be codependent, and it was very uncomfortable for me. But at the same time, I grew from that, and that made me push on the complete opposite spectrum to where I'm very hyper independent now, complete opposite. But all that stuff has helped me be where I am today. And so I know that every step that these children are taking, our kids, everyone, other people's kids, it's in a good direction.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, it's just, again, a lot of people depending on, introverts, extroverts, everybody's got this, even some of our 20-ishes, because I, work with some of them too. And they go into that whole, well, when I pulled it up on Google, it said this. And when I did that, they said that. Okay, if you go here, don't do that. Maybe dress like that. And I go, stop. Hold on. Human factor. You're the product. You are the product. You're the product. You're the product. I'm the product. What we say in sports? Anybody can kick a ball this time. Anybody can do a cartwheel this time. You're the product. Use it as a guide. But I think so because a lot of people they didn't have anybody really working with them. So they have turned to AI. I literally had somebody say, yeah, my new therapist is ChatGPT. Okay.
I know.
And I'm like,
that is not what it's supposed to be for.
But again, if that is a starting point, if that is a tool, but it's like some people just because they haven't had to, they've got this learned helplessness.
Right.
And if that's a start, that's a start. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a good thing. I mean, but I'm like, that's just that you can't base your life on that. That's a piece of it. It's just a part. And that's what I think is that, because the dehumanization has happened and the data this and driven and that, and what about this, what about that, and the statistical. And I'm like, these are our babies. These are humans. Y'all are humans. You have to bring that in, And I think we are getting back to that. And I'm like, you have to put yourself in experiential situations. Have the flushed face. Feel nervous in the car. Like you want to throw up. Did you? But did you die? But did you die? But did you die?
That's right. And if you get stuck, just get unstuck.
And that's why I do what I do with my students in class, because a lot of them have never even done an interview. So I make it, they present in my class, they do this, and I'm very interactive with them. I said, because
a lot of them have social anxiety also.
Because
I've seen a lot of teens who present with social anxiety.
Because
COVID happened.
Right.
Yep.
They were behind
and now they don't
interact with their friends, and they don't. And we've watched YouTube in my room. We've done like role play in my room. If I was, a lot of my teens will ask or will say, I don't know how to start a conversation when I meet, or even know what to say when I'm meeting other friends. So you're right.
Yeah. And this is where too, like when we think about like to check our parents, to check us as a parent too, is in that young adult time too, is what kind of relationship do we want to have with our kids as a young adult, as an adult? So I feel like sometimes when some kids are very independent and they are trying to spread their wings and fly and go off, they want to hurry up and go off to college. And I've actually heard from parents' mouths say, my kid's not going off to college. If they're going to Tallahassee, I'm going to Tallahassee too. I'm moving my stuff. I can't be without my kid. I've literally had parents tell me that they are not going far. They're not going to Georgia. They're not going anywhere else. And I'm just like, whoa. They're trying to get away from you. What does that tell you? I mean, if you think about it, what does that tell you? Yeah. They want to be away from you. So let them, right? Because what that's going to do is it's going to, first of all, it may hurt a little bit that they're like, I need to get out of here. I want to go on the opposite end of the country. If you allow them to do that, they will, first of all, appreciate that you supported them. to do that. Second of all, they will appreciate you more because you are so far away. And you're going to be able to see all the work that you put in, because that kid's going to do great things and be independent and call you when they need to know how to start their washer and dryer in their apartment, and all that stuff. So it's, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your adult children? So why don't we, be a little bit vulnerable with our teens and adult kids and say, you know what, you're 17 now, you're going to graduate. What can I do better as a parent? What can I do to help you at this point? What do you want from me? And maybe we should do that, like every couple of years when they're growing and going into different stages, middle school, high school, they're going through all these different changes, is asking them. I've done that. I did that with my kids. And I'm like, hey, what could I do better? I want to know, what can I do better as a parent? What do you need from me more that I'm not giving you?
Okay.
And I think it kind of opens their eyes a little bit of like, dang. And I was just going through my phone looking, because it's our 5-year anniversary of the So super excited seeing that. And memories. And I was looking at some pictures, and I had for some reason had this old picture back in 2020, and it was a really mean text from my son that he hated me. He never wanted to talk to me again. And I don't even know what happened. I must have did something to embarrass him. Who knows? But all I know is I looked at that, I laughed, but I saved it at that time because I was probably heartbroken. I imagine, like, oh my God, my son hates me. But at the same time, I look at that now and I'm like, oh my God, my son's about to be 20 years old. And he calls me every day from his 3 hours away. And he called me this morning, and he calls me all the time, and he talks to me all the time. And I'm like, that's okay. He hated me at one point. That's okay. But look at where we are now. Like 5 years later, like I have a great relationship with my adult son, but he's put me through the ringer. But at the same time, all that helped him grow.
There is hope.
Yes, there is hope.
I think right now my son hates me too.
And that's okay.
It's okay.
And I say that to parents all the time. If they hate you a little bit, that's okay. They're going to hate you sometimes.
Sometimes my favorite thing with him, he'll say, I'm not that parent. I'm just not that parent that will say, oh, do this and I don't think about what you're doing. But at the same time, learning balance, or finding that balance, letting them do things, or allowing them to do things without you like controlling every move. So
being the lawnmower or the helicopter, right? I mean, it's true. And I think all three of us know, and most good parents out there, we've all done one of those things. So it's not like I'm completely not guilty of it, or you guys, like, we've all done it. It's just,
that's why we're good therapists.
Well, and we have to check ourselves. We hold ourselves
every day.
accountable.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I'm like, damn, I made that mistake. Or like even Anaya, like, although she had one thing with her is that she will tell me when
she's you.
Yeah, she will tell me if I did something to hurt her feelings, or I said no to something. She will tell me. She'll be like, Mom, she was, just so you know, I did not appreciate, you didn't have to yell at me to do this or that, or, and I'm just like, oh, you know what? I actually was, if I think about it, I was mad about something else. It's just, I took it out on you. I'm sorry. And we can apologize to our children.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Apologize.
Well, and I just internationalize, she's come so far.
Oh, yeah.
That little sweet baby, now that she is advocating to stand up for herself. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, because Reagan too, is very soft. They're very smart. And I was like, hey, that's it.
Yeah.
He just told me about myself.
Yeah, exactly.
So apologize to our kids.
We do.
And I do tell my parents that too. I'm like, they're human, and when we have messed up, we have to let them know that we've messed up, because they see the human side of us, and then they're able to, adopt that same principle. They're able to apologize, be held accountable, be responsible. I'll say it too. I'm like, hey, I know I messed up and I apologize, but what can we do better going forward?
Yep. And that's it. And that's it. And like, that helps, I think, us. And I know that every parent, and that's why I say, like, asking these parents, what kind of relationship do you want? Well, I want a great relationship with my son or daughter, of course. Okay. Well, is that looking like that right now? No, your child is in here like screaming, saying, yeah, leave me alone. I need to do this and this and this. And you're saying, no, 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 no. They're asking for that because they and think about the relationship after that. So, and I see that once that moves past that point, they can actually start.
Absolutely. And, I'll say this too, because you made me think about this as you were talking. I have older daughters, they're in their 30s. And you're right about that. Because, they got the the worst part of me because I
They're
was young
older,
too.
right?
They're older, but the relationship that we have now, like the bond that we have, and they're like, "Mom, you are a great parent." And I will always tell my oldest, I go, because she's the only grandkids, I'm like, "You are an excellent parent," and she goes, "I learned from you." So you do have to let them spread their wings, and I mean, I would like to say that I'm best friends with my girls, even though I know they have best friends, but there's boundaries and there's separation, and you have to know where you fit in with your adult children. So like you said, if you want a great relationship with them when they do become adults, you have to give them that autonomy to move the way they want, and you not always put your hands in and try to rescue or save the day.
Yeah. But even because I mean, you guys know, and I know that you're single mom for a little bit too. I mean, but I've been a single mom. Like Reagan is 22 and, 3, and also being a teacher. And so, and being a coach, I've been mom to a lot of kids, a lot of kids. But I think that because my foundation was always about them, it was always, I knew that I was a teacher they could come to. I knew they were the coach. My coaches, we know, I mean, they helped raise me, but I never sugarcoated it, and I said that this is what it is and this is what it is. And you're still going to respect your parents because that's who you are. It doesn't matter over here. But I was also, like, I'm going to be tough on you because I get one shot to do this. And talk about me when you get home. Like, you don't have to like me and that's like, well, what if he doesn't like me? I said, good, maybe he shouldn't, because I wouldn't like me either, and I used to tell Reagan all the time, I said, listen, I know it's hard to be my child. I am so driven. I am so, like you said, hyper independent, a lot of energy. I do a lot of things, very accomplished. And it was always like, oh yeah, you're coach's son or you're whatever. And I'm always like, no, I'm Reagan's mom, like it just, but I mean, even to the other kids. But on the flip side of that, because, I'm raising boys, even with that, I told him, I said, listen, I said, as young men, I said, you're always going to get the short end of the stick if it comes down to anything. If it's anything with a girl or if it's anything in the show, I said, you got to make sure you know how to shake a hand. There's a lot of pressure put on you. And so, but it was also use me. If you're ever in a situation and you don't know what to say, my mom won't let me. Coach won't let me. Put it on me. I tell people that now too. I said, my therapist won't let me do that. If you don't know what to do, use me. Because that is where my strength comes in. We can talk about it later, but if anything else, I want to be your rock, because to me, you don't have the foundation. It doesn't matter what you're building, and I think that's the thing is that when parents get there and they're just like, well, but I've given him this and he's doing that, or this happened. And I'm like, okay. And it might happen again. Because guess what? And I tell my high schoolers and everything too, I was like, yeah, that was stupid. What's going to be the next stupid thing you do? Because there's going to be another one, because this is just where you are. Your frontal lobe is in the toilet right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't understand. I was like, well, I do. And again, that's why here's your toilet paper.
Don't flush
Figure it out. But I'm like,
yeah.
You got to give yourself grace. You got to give yourself grace. Be kind to yourself when you're learning, and it's your journey.
And embrace the discomfort. Embrace that time when you're uncomfortable doing something, that first doctor's appointment that you have to call and make, and pharmacy run, and talking to an adult and doing all that and dealing with that. Like, it's not going to be the first time. It's not going to be the last time. And so you're going to have to experience it again. So, and that's just about life in general. And I think that's where this coddling culture is causing chaos. You say that 5 times fast. Coddling culture
causing
chaos.
I did it.
Yes. So it is, because I'm seeing it so much, and I don't only see it in my practice with these young kids. I see it out there too, with other, friends, kids, or, Anaya's teammates and parents. And I've seen it before, and it's just like, man, like, these kids need to learn some basic life skills. And even and I tell people this too, even as educated as I am, I still do not believe that education is the end all be all, because I've learned a lot of things in school, but I think I've learned more in my real life than anything else. And I think that you can do that so much now. So, and we're not teaching that enough. We're teaching just school and education and stuff, but it really needs to be us coming from home and teaching them those life skills. And that's our job. So,
and we enjoy doing it.
And sometimes we don't, but it doesn't matter because, and it's funny because my clients will tell you, and they'll come back with things. They're like, yeah, Dr. Robin, it's the stairs. Remember, it's the stairs. And I'm like, that's strange stairs with stairs. Because that's what I say. I always do the stair step principle. Learn, learn, learn. Apply, apply, apply. I said, we can learn everything. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, it didn't work. It didn't work. What was something? But it was, that's your experience. You have to, if there's no application, it's never going to make sense. And that's the thing. Sometimes, but I'm doing this and that. Okay. But you did this. You got A, B, and C.
But, I think they're so afraid of failure that they're afraid to try.
And here's the thing. Even when my sports site babies, gave her my sign. I said, bring it back when you're done. And it says, you never truly fail until you stop trying. It hasn't come back yet. She got it. Okay, it never comes back. But that was the thing. And especially with athletes, it's, but what if? I go, but what if you don't?
Yep.
Right. If it's fear. I said, no. I said, you go, when? I said, don't ever, if, when. When this happens, I will handle it.
Yep.
The best way that I know how right now.
If that happens too,
But if is fear. Language. I'm always big in language. Dr. Van Treese, big shout out to you. He taught us language. Because I listen on time, I go, if, but if, we can what if ourselves to death.
Oh yeah, we definitely can. And that's one thing too is, like you said, with like athletes and stuff, like, if I lose or, if I don't do good on this test, it's going to cause this chaos. It's like, I always tell even adults at any age, or young adults, I say, can you think of a time when you failed and you were like, felt like it could have been a test. It could have been anything. You didn't get into a team, and they'll tell me a time. And I'm like, what happened after that? Well, I was sad or I got upset and blah, blah, blah. It took me, a couple weeks to get over it, but you got over it. You're sitting here today.
Absolutely.
How many great things did you do since then? And accomplished? Well, a lot. Okay. So it's just about like finding that, going backwards and saying, I've come from some really shitty circumstances, or I've come from some big mistakes and failures, and I've come out of it. So you've already proven it to yourself. I'm not proving it to you. You're saying it. So that's one thing is too, to remind them that you will fail and you're going to fail again at something, and you will come out again because that is who you are, and you are able to do that.
Absolutely.
But failure is part of the process. I mean, and again, I'm like, define fail. Like, what does that even mean to you? Because it's like they go, oh, but it's the end all be all. But I'm like, it's not. You cannot, even as athletes, I said, if you are going into anything afraid to fail, you will. You will, because you're operating from fear.
Based on fear.
And that's the thing.
Absolutely. So that's what you're going to get.
But that is the same thing what I'm saying about these parents. 99% of it is coming from fear. We are overcompensating because we fear. We are trying to pave the way or be a helicopter parent because we're scared of something. And that's where we have to check ourselves. What am I scared of? I'm scared they're going to end up in jail. Okay. So you're thinking you're going to do X, Y, and Z to prevent that? No, that's not going to work,
Absolutely.
things like that. So most of it is based from fear. And we can't, like you said, we can't operate based off fear. We have to kind of step back from our emotions. This is where I always say the wise mind. Have you heard the wise mind's in the middle? So I've said this before. The left side, if you look at the little circles, it's the right side is, okay, emotion based. I'm thinking and making a decision based on my emotion, how I feel. Okay, that's good. The other side is basing it on logic, rationale. And then there's this little part in the middle, and it combines the both of them. Think about your logic a little bit, think about the rationale, but also taking account of some feelings. But there's somewhere in the middle, and that's the wise mind. And so that's where I tell people, you need to operate from there. It's okay to be a little bit emotional. You want some of that too. You want to be human, right?
Absolutely.
But we also need to do some logic and rational thinking. So,
well, and again, you talk to them, they go, oh yeah, the readiness factor. I go, maybe it wasn't failure. Maybe you were not ready. Maybe you just weren't ready.
That's true.
That's what I say too. I said, a lot of it too. I said, if you, whatever your higher power is, or your universe, or where you bow down to trees, I don't know, but maybe somebody or something was protecting you. Maybe it was a situation that you were going to go in, and because you weren't ready, there was going to be so much
it wasn't your time.
And it was not your time. it doesn't mean you have to hate that anymore or not think that that's going to happen.
Yep.
But
it just wasn't meant for you at that time. I know. And even that just made me think too, because of this whole 5-year thing. I was looking back on 5 years and where I was is working for this, agency, this facility that I thought I was going to grow in. I thought that's where I was going to end up and I'm just going to keep climbing the corporate ladder with them. And I kept getting roadblock and promised things and it wasn't happening. And that's when, and then COVID hit and I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to be on my own and do this on my own and open up my own place. And like I said last time, like it wasn't in my plans to do that, but I was meant not to have that higher position at the facility I was at, because clearly if I would have done that, I would have kept going with them. I would have never had development at all.
Right.
So it wasn't meant for me. And even though at that time I was really upset, I was like, oh, I'm a failure or I'm not good enough to be in this higher role. But clearly that wasn't the case. It was because, if you believe in God, I do. Yeah. It's like God knew there was something better for me out there. So
absolutely.
Well, and again, it's so funny because y'all know, I mean, we're all faith, so faith-based, especially. And that was the thing. It's like when I made the big decisions that I did, because even as a little kid, and I was just like, I was like, God, just put where I'm supposed to be. That was really the only prayer I even knew. Just put where I'm supposed to be, because there was so much. And there was something like, I was like, really? Come on, God. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be? Lord, come. What? No. And I spent 4 years in place and, a lot of trials, but some wonderful people. And this beautiful, beautiful lady I worked with, and she's like, Coach, she goes, it's your training ground. And even then I was like, what's your training ground? And I never got it. I didn't understand. And it was funny. I was thinking about it the other day because I always say, champions are won in the off season. Mm-hmm. And we talk about 24 and we're like, oh, we were training.
Yeah.
And I always think, wow, yeah, I was doing a lot of training back then because I wasn't ready.
Right.
I wasn't ready.
But you have to be prepared to be ready. And that's preparation.
And sometimes you don't.
Yeah,
but you're just
thrown in and you're
that's
like,
how I felt too.
Right.
And I mean, and TJ, even you came from the education. I know that you weren't planning to be like necessarily in private practice. Like this wasn't in your plan.
I was sharing it with her and I'm like, and here I am because God placed me here.
Yeah.
And he really, really did.
And this, and like I've told you since you became, in a leadership position, it's like, this is made for you. Like you are made for like something like this. You have the personality, you have the grace, you have like, everything about it. So this was made for you.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and all the lives you touch, like all TJ's patients, just tell her. I can't, I mean, it's true. We get all the reviews and everything. TJ's amazing. TJ. I mean, like, so you're doing good stuff at the end of the day. So this is where you were meant to be.
I'm definitely where
you're meant to be.
I'm definitely where I want to be and where I need to be.
Yep.
And it's only getting better like every day.
Yep.
It really is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and calling a shout out to our lady boss. Because again, had you not, I mean, that's where I'm always just like, I always think God's plan is, he's got it figured out way before we do. But a lot of times, and that's the thing, it's like, okay, it's always been there. But again, I wasn't ready to step into it. I had no idea. I was way back, in education, doctorate in education, still in that. But I was always like, the one thing I didn't finish were my clinical hours, had no idea of anything. Come down here, interview, and I'm thinking like, she's just beautiful. I was like, wow, okay. And came down and I was like, wow, she's different, And then she's probably like, wow, she's really
different.
But it was funny. And it really comes down to your sweet husband, Brandon. Love you. Swole snack. But, and it was funny because there was something that had happened. I can't remember what it was. It was at the old office. And, I had come from crisis center before I came here. So whatever, and I'm a strong personality. But there was just something, I mean, we were just, okay, you do this, I'm just handling it. And I didn't think anything about it. And you weren't there because we were, you couldn't be there a lot because we were growing, we were sharing offices. Mm-hmm. And I remember you came in and gosh, it was a while later. And I think you were talking to somebody else and you're like, yeah, and my husband was like, dang, like, tell you about old Robin. Tell you about Robin. Like, she's silly and she's crazy, but that girl just wow, I was just so impressed. And I was like, it just made me, and little stuff like that, because, so many times, like when you're not in the right place or you don't, and you're just like, oh, who am I? What is my purpose?
Right. Absolutely.
And that is the best thing is that, you let me moonwalk down the side, cartwheel out here. And then, but even with that, you letting me be me, the first email with TJ, and I already was like, oh, I'm going to love her. And the first time I met her, and I went right to you and I said, that's a leader, and so I'm always telling my, my babs, my badass bitches, what? And I said, iron sharpens iron, and that's exactly what it is. Your strength, my strength, your strength. We are strong in different areas, but especially being females and just empowering each other and absolutely no animosity, jealousy, sometimes a side eye just because like,
yeah, we give that to you a lot.
I mean, I get but it's just like, girl, can you sit down? Because
you got my hand on like spinning.
I know.
No, but really, I am so appreciative because it has been a really long time of just.
Really? Look at all our failures. Look at all our, trials and tribulations. And that's what it is. And we're all, I'm in my 40s. You both are in your 50s.
54.
There you go.
54.
I'm the middle child.
There you go.
Real. Like, I really am the middle child in my family.
I know, that's funny. So she's the middle child.
Yeah. So am I.
Oh, I'm the baby.
You know what?
I am the baby in this one too.
Actually, you know what? I can see that. But I'm a little older. So see, and my little sister's wow.
That is crazy. So I am the baby and I'm a baby here too.
She is. It is funny because and even, do you remember that too? You had just got pulled on a leadership team. We were just, it was anything, something went on and we both were like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was like, listen. And you were just like, we're like, no ma'am, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to do. And we just like took over.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I had never done that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But I mean, it was just this.
Because we were at our cat that, wait, where do we need to find him? And what are we going to do?
Yeah, we were, and you were just kind of like, well, I kind of thought that. And we were like, and it was funny. And I will tell you, that was, I think, the first time I saw you in a different light, because we were very much like, we're doing this, we're doing that. And we were so busy and we were kind of just and then we bring in the trifecta, this one. But then because our dynamic is so different and we're so much about protecting you, and this happened and she went in.
Because I told you about it. She told me. And then I told you. I was like, no.
And then all of a sudden, we were like three-way couple. And you were just kind of like, and we're like, no, ma'am. No, listen, this is what we're going to do. And and you're like, well, I thought, and then what was it? One of the younger clinicians said something like, yeah, they're like, yeah, boy, Robin and TJ, boy, I'm learning how to be tough from them.
Well, good. I mean, and that's the thing is like, I'm all about like, although I'm like the owner of the company and like the leader and stuff, like that doesn't mean I know everything. That doesn't mean that like I can do everything. That's why you two are my right hand women. So, I mean, it is what it is. So I appreciate it.
Each other all the time.
And I like to be held accountable. Like, and if I'm messing up or making a bad decision and stuff, like I want, Oh,
no,
okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I'd like to be held accountable, in a sense.
We were the big sisters.
I mean, it is what it is. And I think all these things are strengths, and everything that we've done, in our lives has brought us to where we are today. And we have to then triple over and give that to our next generation of kids. So 40s and 50s here now, but in our 20s as well and 30s, we made a shit ton of mistakes. I mean, and we learned. And so we have to believe in our younger generation that they're going to be okay. Yep. So if we could say anything to these parents out there, is first of all, know that if you're being protective or you maybe being a helicopter parent, is to think about it. Are you coming from a place of fear? Is it going to be, a good thing for them in the future? Or are you hindering their growth? What kind of relationship do you want with your children, your adult children? What do you see with that? So that's kind of what this was about today.
Right. And if you don't know, make sure you're having that conversation with your children.
And
asking them.
Yeah, you go seek help too. Parents don't know everything.
No.
We don't listen.
I mean, you some therapy.
No, and that's the thing. And even with my students or my kids or whoever, and I said, listen, your parents you have no idea what your parents are going thugh right now. And so I give it on both sides. I was just like, it's on both sides. I said, we have to look at each other as, autonomous psychological beings. It's just a mama, it's just a daddy, it's just an auntie and a grandma and a child, and everybody's got their, whatever. And give each other some grace.
Yeah,
but you got to give yourself some grace.
Absolutely,
first.
and be vulnerable and be humble enough to say I'm wrong as a parent, and listen to your children. Like, we need to listen, and as long as we're doing it in a respectful way. And I'm not saying any of you teens out there, young adults, is like to go curse out your parents. No, but have a genuine conversation with them of what you need from them. And if you are the parent, ask your teens and your young adult children, what do you need from me at this point in your life? And have those conversations.
Listen. That's one of the things, that I share with my parents. Listen. Sometimes they don't want your advice.
Just correct.
Yep. And then you can ask, would you like my advice? Or would you just like me to continue to listen? And I've learned that also.
I hate unsolicited advice. Right. I hate it.
Well, and one of the things I do with my couples, even, I said, because if they were talking communication, you go, okay, am I listening or am I problem solving?
Yep.
What's my role?
Right.
And that's the thing, because even with, I know some parents say that I just consume and they just unload and such as that, and they just drive me crazy. And I'm like, okay, well, then just say this. Am I listening to just let you vent? Or do you want me to help problem solve? Because that's two totally different things.
And most of the time they just want to
listen.
Yeah, they want to vent because they think they figured it out, so they just want you to listen. And even in the listening, that builds relationship too.
Right. And then if we go into the rescue mode too quickly, that is, again, not empowering them to make a decision based on what happened, and I'm guilty of that even to this day. Like, my daughter comes home and she's like bawling from something that happened either at school or cheer or something like that. And I'm listening to her and I'm problem solving, right? Therapy mode. I put on my therapy hat. Sometimes I got to take that therapy hat off and put on my parenting cap and be like, great, honey, how does that feel? Like, what do you think you're going to do about it? Like, what do you think you want to do about that? Or do you just want to, you're just venting to me? And so sometimes I do that, and I have to check myself, like, okay, now let's take off your therapy hat. I'm not in a therapy. I'm just listening to my kid. And so, it's all about that.
Absolutely.
So,
and then the last little part is even with that. And I go, you know what? I'm really glad that you're upset about this, because that shows you how much it means to you. And so, but you got to figure out, is what's happening at whatever's happening, is that worth your peace?
That's a good question to ask yourself. I like that.
Is it worth your peace? So,
all right. Well,
peace out.
That was the segue. So thank you all for listening, and we will be rolling these out every week now. So we are looking forward to some guest speakers on the next one. We have a calendar out, so hopefully you'll get to hear from some other people. So thank you all for listening.
Have an unhinged week.
Yeah.
Therapist Unhinged.